What's up, world? It's your boy, Mike Muse, on the Conversation, the Mike Muse Show. I am so excited to be in conversation with this cast of this incredible movie called House of Dynamite. I've got to be honest with you, there is rare a time that I am highly engaged with a film that I believe is reflective of current events. Because of the work that I do, audience, you're very familiar with it, but the cast may not be, but because of the work in my other part of my commentary is political coverage and societal constructs, for me, when I see films or TV shows that are reflective to what is happening in our society today, I don't enjoy them. And the reason why I don't enjoy them because it doesn't allow someone like me escapism, because it's too on the nose. And when things are too on the nose, I don't enjoy it. This film, I didn't read any synopsis beforehand, didn't read any reviews, I didn't Google anything, and so I kind of went in blind. I was like, okay, great, nuclear proliferation, nuclear war, I've seen it a time or two, I'm going to be bored by it. But as I began to watch it, it hooked me probably around the 15-minute mark, and it put me in the chokehold, and it didn't let go. I felt unease. I felt that this could be probable, and I felt the ways and things I do on commentary that these are oftentimes I think about as a civilian, and these things actually came to life. And so I want to just unpack with the few minutes I have with this cast on this journey that they went on looking at nuclear proliferation, this journey they went on examining our democracy, examining geopolitics, and I'm having this conversation in the backdrop of the United Nations General Assembly assembling right now. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring to you this incredible cast of the House of Dynamite. Starting with you, Rebecca, how you feeling?
Terrified right now, thanks.
Boom,
Also, did you hear that he said the first 15 minutes were like that?
Yeah.
That's my part of the movie.
It's all you. I blame you, Rebecca. I blame you for how I feel. Rebecca, why are you feeling terrified?
I think, jokes aside, I think it's terrifying to discuss topics that I myself am not as well versed in, but I have an emotional response to it. I feel deflated, I feel sad, I feel scared. I think it's a very topical film, and I think it's a very important film.
Mm-hmm. Moses Ingram, I felt that you were me multiple times in the film, but just how are you feeling today in this great fall afternoon?
It's strange.
Mm-hmm.
It's very strange. Like, I, as an empath, have trouble sometimes keeping up the charade. It's like, but it's my job. So.
It's so interesting that I actually gravitated towards you when I said you were me, I am you, and I am an empath. Mm-hmm. And I do feel energy, which is why I have a weird process where I don't talk to my guest before I sit down. It's time to open the mic because I don't want to absorb what they're feeling, because it could be a difficult transformation as you have to assemble such a cast. And so that empathy is so important, and particularly as you're making really world consequential decisions at hand. Tracy Letts, you seem to have no empathy, though. It's hard to me.
That's probably why I'm feeling so good right now.
Boom! Because the way you play that character as head of Stratcom is exactly how I imagine that person in that role has to be. Talk to me about your relationship to empathy, going off what Moses just said, and relationship to the character you had to play for this.
The job is put on the costume and pretend to be the guy, and the truth is that I don't agree with the guy. It's not the philosophy I would have, but I understand why somebody would have that philosophy. So just like you put on the costume, you put on the philosophy. You go, all right, I'll own this, I'll be that guy, I'll make this point.
Yeah.
He's not a madman. He has a point to make. Mm-hmm. It's not invalid. Just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean it's not valid.
But being agnostic is the key to being in that position.
Probably.
And then that role. Jason Clark, you on the other hand, how are you feeling today? You look very professorial. This great tweed blazer.
Thank you very much.
Great
And you know, this is
glasses.
my throwback to Robert Redford, 3 Days of the Consul.
Yeah.
You know, Rob died, and I thought I'm in New York in a movie. Mike, I feel great. I love hearing people have such a response to this film. You know, to this film that I read, to Catherine, you know, coming back and making another movie after such a long time. That this is, you know, they're very rare events to be involved. As you say, you watch a lot of movies. Yeah. They're very rare to get hit so intensely, so emotionally, so cerebrally, you know, by a piece of art that happens to be cinema as well. And I'm excited. I think I think, you know, the world needs these things, and I think the world needs movies and films like this that are big ensemble casts that in a way I think that strip out the good, the bad, the right, the wrong, but just give us the reality and leave us, you know, with this. Here it is. It's coming at a direction you never thought of before, but it touches on all the little things that you mentioned so eloquently. And you know, there's that thing in the trailer says, you know, the only home we've ever known. Yeah. And it's just, you know, I mean, they're like meteors. To be part of this it's a very rare event.
You gave me a lot to unpack there.
Unpack it, Mike. Come on.
And I will. I definitely will. Because Anthony, how are you feeling today, my friend, on this great fall day?
Great, thank God. I feel phenomenal.
He's dressed phenomenally well too. Thanks, I gotta admit.
Hey, I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? I feel great.
Your character represented the physical, I think, feeling that many Americans will have while watching this. How did you think through that? Because I'm going to talk to a lot, but for you in particular, I felt your character had to portray so much physical acting to really convey the emotions and the adrenaline that you were processing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's a lot of anxiety, right? Like anybody will have anxiety, anybody be scared, anybody be worried. You know, this is a guy dealing with that, but not only that, right? Like the responsibility of what his job entails, and then like if I fail, now I feel guilty. I'm responsible for deaths. Yeah. You know, like, you know, there's a lot of pressure, and he's young. He's like a younger guy, and everyone he's working with are around the same age, and I think that's just a lot. You know, I think it's a lot for that group to be going through.
It is. No, I'm skipping you for a second.
Please do.
If you don't,
welcome to skip.
If you don't mind, Jonah. First, I want to talk to you about this choice of this mustard-colored vest. It is pretty epic.
You know,
my
the
friend.
best thing about this is it's a reversible as well. So that was the biggest
Cut the
decision.
check.
Yes.
Get that
Which side to go with?
Where's it from? Who made it? It don't matter. Don't worry about it.
I
We'll
remember.
figure it out later. Don't worry. I'm just trying to get you this
Thank
money,
very
Jake.
much.
Yeah.
Nice and soft.
So clearly, you're into fall fashion.
Well, maybe my stylist is, I think, more than I am. But yeah, I feel good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm hearing an accent. Where are you from?
I'm from London. Yeah.
Given how the UK military is, what informed you when you started playing the role of a US soldier?
Yeah, it was fun doing quite a lot of research for this. You know, the guy is like an 04 and 05 ranking, which would suggest he's kind of middle ranking, but on the rise. It's someone that's well thought of, but as it's kind of explored in the film, he's pretty young, and he's in a position of a lot of responsibility. And I was fascinated by the job in real life, because this is someone that follows the president around everywhere they go, and a lot of the time doesn't have that much to do other than to be there and to make sure they're alert and professional and ready. And then suddenly they're really important, and suddenly they have to really step up and really think about their training and have a massive role. Yeah. So it's quite an interesting psychology, I think, for someone to be doing.
Particularly as a different, militaries are so different. The US military has a different constitution than the British military. Cash, you all did a wonderful job. Noah Oppenheim, congratulations. Yeah. You wrote an incredible film. I was blown away at the knowledge of history. I was blown away at the use of the Battle of Gettysburg and how that is a metaphor for nuclear proliferation. And I was completely blown away at this dichotomy of soft diplomacy versus hard diplomacy. Talk about how important that through line was of balancing soft diplomacy and hard diplomacy throughout the entire film.
Well, first of all, thank you. You know, this whole thing started with a question that our great director, Catherine Bigelow, was asking, which is, you know, what would happen in the world if a weapon like this were to be used? And it's a question that a lot of us have put out of our mind for a very long time. She grew up at a time when kids would have to hide under their school desks during nuclear war drills. Most of us haven't thought about it in a very long time. So, it began with her curiosity and the question of what would happen inside these rooms, what would go on in the White House Situation Room if a missile was ever launched. We went and we talked to as many people as we could who work in those places, who drill these scenarios, and we asked them. And a lot of it is about trying to communicate, trying to find out who's responsible. Are more missiles coming? What's happening? How can we de-escalate this situation? But the challenge that they face is that the physics are such that they only have about 18 minutes, which is insane to think about. 18 minutes with the fate of the entire planet at stake. And so if they can't reach the person on the phone who has the answer to the question, unfortunately there is a momentum that sort of goes from let's communicate to let's strike back. That it's a momentum that's pretty hard to fight when that clock is ticking down and when information is in short supply.
Audience, this movie is about a nuclear bomb is launched, it's coming to the United States, and then what happens there unfolds. Moses, I heard you respond, and you said oomph.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that, because that, for me, was your character responding, receiving this information that Noah's discussing, and it's almost like you're in disbelief that everything the country prepares for, this moment is actually happening.
Well, I haven't seen the movie. I read it, and reading it was enough for me. Earth is a small town, There's like nowhere else that anybody can be. And I think we, not to do too much, it's hard not to do too much when you've written something like this at a time like this. But like, we have been afforded the luxury of not thinking about it. But there are so many people who have to think about it every day, so.
Trace, that comes to coming to you off of that about having to think about it, because in a lot of conversations I have with CIA officers who have to brief the daily briefing of the president or the vice president, they always talk to me about their job is just to provide the analysis, right? Not to opine, so that he or she, if ever come a time America where a woman is elected, has to have that decision to make that. Talk to me about that thought process, and particularly within your character, because you got challenged in this movie to go beyond just the analysis and lean into your opinion.
These guys who sit in the seat I sit in real life, they were on the set. They were technical advisors, and they drill these scenarios 400 times a year. That's what they do. That's all they do. They drill these nuclear scenarios, more than one a day. And so they are very prepared to do their job, to receive information, collate that information, pass that information up the chain of command. That's their job. And we just keep funneling that information on up until we reach the guy who makes the decision, who's the president. And spoilers, the president has a very tough decision to make, and I move into a bit of advisory capacity with the president, which is not strictly the job, but he's having a moment where he's having a hard time making decisions. So there are we see the polar opposites of the advice that he's getting.
Well, this is what for me makes this film so brilliant is, Noah, you didn't leave out the human element, because there was a scene where I can tell where the character broke the role that he's assigned to and goes beyond the analysis. How much, Noah, did you have to weigh in writing this, that human intent? Because we always think about this commander-in-chief, this debate, there's always like, what will you do with that 3 a.m. phone call, right? But we forget these people are men, they're humans, right? Like, of course a human is gonna want more than just their opinion with the end of the world at the push of a button. Of course they will want to push beyond analysis.
Sure, well, it's funny, when I got the first job I ever had that came with any real responsibility, a wise person said to me, I hate to break it to you, but there are no grown-ups on another floor that actually know what to do. It's now up to you. And that is the reality at every level. In the White House, at the Pentagon, these are human beings. Now, they're very serious human beings. As Tracy mentioned, we had the good fortune of working with folks who have held senior roles in all these places. And without exception, they are thoughtful, They take their responsibility seriously. They're diligent. But they also wake up and have a fight with their spouse and have a bad day, or have a kid who's sick and that's distracting them. And there's just no system in the world that you can build yet that can escape the human factor.
Yeah.
And I would say, so much of the credit for bringing that to the film belongs with these incredible folks around this table, these luminous performers who found those moments. Each and every one of them found moments that were not in the script to bring that humanity to the screen.
Humanity and children, Rebecca, I have to come to you. The humanity you brought to your role was absolutely fantastic. The maternal nature that you brought, I thought, was absolutely phenomenal. And not just maternal to the child that you have in the movie, but to your colleagues that was in the Situation Room. Talk to me about how you thought about that character. There's a moment where you break and your character cries. And that's what got me. Talk to me how you thought through that scene. How did you think through that scene?
It got me too, because it wasn't planned. I think it's in the script. I mean, we have certain moments where, for example, we had a dinosaur moment, and we were just playing around, my son and my husband, and I said to the boy, "Why don't you just give me the dinosaur?" And he gave me the dinosaur, so it was beautiful, and I put it in the bag, and then later on I thought, should we just put it in the shoe? And Catherine, I was talking about this dinosaur, which felt so quite pathetic compared to the story that we were telling. But it was just, we have 18 minutes, and clearly 15 of them weren't that interesting for you. But point being is, we as actors, I'm speaking for myself, I don't have that much time to create a character, because what I have is to create authenticity within a room and not mess up, right? But the breaking point, it was actually, I was next to Malachi, who was the officer next to me, phenomenal. And there's a moment where he just looked at me and he kind of grabbed my hand, and I had just picked out the dinosaur out of my pocket, and I burst out crying, just in the moment. But I turned my head away from him, knowing that there was a camera there, thinking I've been told by Larry Pfeiffer, who is actually the person who Jason plays, who was our person of contact in the room. And he said, "You never break. You do not break in the room. If you need to, you walk out of the room, you get your shit together, and you control the room. You're the last person standing." And I dipped my head to the side, but I didn't know that Barry had a camera at that moment, which I'm quite grateful for now. But it was a sneaky moment. And that's what Catherine, I think, does in the way that she directs. She puts the cameras on. You never know what she's going to grab. You don't know what you're going to offer. And you see it when it comes together.
Were you feeling the weight? What were you feeling? The weight of the decision? The weight of the impossibility? For me, there was a weight of something you were feeling. I couldn't figure it out.
I think, in a very simple way, I'm a mother of 2 children. And for me, it was, and it comes when I think about it, the feeling of not seeing them. The fact that I am helpless. I'm helpless to a scenario, but you also have to remember that as the senior officer of the watcher's room, of the Situation Room, I have no opinion. I have no right to an opinion. I'm neutral, and I'm the highest form of switchboard. And that is a pressure in itself, because I cannot change anything. I can only connect who I think are the best people to connect at that current moment.
Yeah, oof, that's deep, Rebecca. That's making me think about Anthony. And you're putting in conversation Rebecca's character with your character, because Rebecca's character is to analyze, but your character is to act. And I don't know what your age is, but for me, you never age. And for me, you're in a constant state of like 21, 22 years old. And having that, I thought you were perfectly cast for that, because of this youthfulness that you have. It allowed us, America, but it allowed us as America to recognize that our military is made up of young soldiers. We forget that we are sending our sons and daughters out at 18 years old to do the most consequential task, to shoot and to kill on behalf of our democracy. And there's 18 and 19-year-olds who are literally in Alaska pushing the button that could end the world or save the world. You were perfect for that. The way you held that character and the youthful and naivete of it was so important. But for me, it was a scene where you guys were eating Doritos and you hit the Doritos off. Talk to me about that scene, because for me, that reminded us that you guys are like, you're young, you're kids.
I mean, we were talking about, right, Noah spoke a little bit about it, right? These are people still going through things, right? Like this one was arguing with his wife about the kids, and then this one's arguing about with his girlfriend about whatever it is or whatever. Now he's coming off of this situation where he's getting dogged out by his wife. He's pulling up. My man's got his whole desk dirty, and I'm like, I can't think. There's a mess here. I'm dealing with this personal situation. Like, clean. The least you could do is have a clean station. Like what are we doing here? You know, and you can see his reaction, like why are you overreacting? But it's right. It's all a ripple effect. But then once that real situation happens, and once it's like it's go time and that button is pressed, and it's like, no, this is not a test. This is real. All that goes away, and it's all that human connection. It's like, hey man, I'm sorry actually. Yeah. I'm sorry that I overreacted about that, because you know what? In the grand scheme of things, there are real things happening.
But in that short amount of time, 18 minutes, Noah, that you mentioned, you went from an incredible emotional range of youthful naivete, discussing Doritos, all the way to the moment when you realize time is up, right? And the gravitas hit, right? Talk to us about how you had to think about the emotional range you had to cover in such a short amount of time, 18 minutes, obviously longer in filming.
Yeah, like the thing about it is, like, he's not really that naive. That guy's actually probably in his 30s, and he's a major. Like, that his job is to really to make sure that everyone is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And if in fact something does happen, which it does, everybody knows exactly who to call. I'm getting a message here, now I'm gonna talk to you. You've got to call that person. All right, while she's calling him, you have to do this. I need you to look at that screen. I need you to look at all the cities, the probable name that, send that message to her. Like, there's so much going on for this guy, and again, which goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, this is the reality for these people who are in their, again, like in their mid-20s to 30s, and just dealing with the pressure of these situations day in and day out.
You kept using numbers. Talk to me about the significance of numbers and why you kept focusing on 10 million, 9 million. Talk to me about the use of numbers.
I think that, you're talking about the end of all life as we know it. When you're talking about the use of nuclear weapons, you're talking about something that is almost impossible for the human mind to comprehend. And yet, there is this entire infrastructure that exists to try to distill it into terms that people can process and therefore make decisions from. So when you say 9 million people will die if a missile hits the city of Chicago, what the hell does that even mean? How can you feel 9 million people, 9 million souls? How does a person make sense of that? And yet,
that's all of Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, and when you talk to the folks who do this for a living, Tracy mentioned the Stratcom, they drill 400 times a year for nuclear scenarios. It's not dissimilar to why we have soldiers train with live ammunition. It's to desensitize them. It's so that when there is live fire, they don't panic and their primal instincts don't kick in. And so one of the ways in which these people try to deal with these scenarios is you take something incomprehensible and you reduce it to a number, 9 million. The velocity is this, the trajectory is this. It's an almost sort of scientific, cold approach to something that at the end of the day is impossible really to make sense of.
Jason Clarke, I felt like you brought the balance, your character. I felt like your character was always looking at the glass half full.
Yeah.
And I felt like, to Noah's credit, I want you to answer it, and not Noah, but to Noah's credit, the way it was written, to understand nuclear deterrence is to ensure that we actually don't use them, but that all these systems are in place for a deterrence. And I felt your character actually believed that.
I think we all do. I think at the end of the day, where humanity is cup half full, I mean, the idea, one thing when I looked at my character was like, it's continuity of government, continuity of life form, and even, in the characters, in the military as such, yes, there's a chain of things. Let's turn to page 8 now, we go down here and these people go down, but these people don't. So it breaks your heart, and it should show you the things that, it's, but it goes on, but it all in the name of continuity. Whatever life will be left or whether they'll all be gone, it's like, no, we want to survive. Human beings want to survive. And I think it's a great reminder as we come to the pinnacle of this, that of course we want to live. We can't drown ourselves. Something has to drown us. You know, you want to reach up, and the military is a great dichotomy of that, isn't it? I mean, it's down to here, and then we hand it to one dude.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You know, and yes, of course you want advice. It's like, should I book my ticket now or should I book my ticket later? You know, do you know what I mean? There's this great thing, and you say about deterrence. There was a great thing in the coming wave about AI. You know, the greatest deterrence we've had, the greatest successful deterrence we've had, is nuclear proliferation. For all the mistakes, for all the insanity, for all the Russian sub-commander going, no, I'm not going to hit that button in Cuba, to now we have the next biggest one is AI and superintelligence. So how can we learn from what we've done? You know, this is a great follow-up to Nolan's Oppenheimer.
It is.
You know? And it's phrased it in a different way, in a way which leaves it to all of us. Yeah. Is your cup half full or is your cup half empty? And it's fine either way, but man, here it is. We're handing it over to you.
I wouldn't say Nolan Oppenheimer's follow-up in terms of making nuclear, but it's so right on in terms of what we're discussing right now as a political and geopolitical society.
Yes.
No need to engage in that part, Cass. But Jonah, I wish I had 2 hours with you guys. I want to unpack so much more. Hopefully Netflix lets me come back for part 2. Jonah, I want to come to you because this is what Jason is actually talking about, right? When you talked about we're looking at the examination of all the scenarios and we hand it to the guy, right? Like that was your role, that was to hand the information to the guy, right? Talk to me about your thought process and how you approach that, because I love the way that you crossed yourself, right? You inserted religion, right? It's interesting how sometimes some people want to be so religiously agnostic until it's time, right? Until we find religion. So talk to me about your use of the crossing and what your character was feeling in that sense, and then the weight of all these scenarios that you just mentioned about they run this drill 400 times, right? That soldier has read that book 400 times.
I think what's interesting, and you see this in how it plays out with Idris and I, but also throughout the whole film, is that these are people who are highly trained, highly professional, and yet when the thing does happen for real, it's impossible to not let the humanity come in, because I think when you're in the drill moment, it feels different, and maybe you're not thinking about your kids in the same way, but suddenly it's there and it's imminent, and your life feels fragile. And my character, I'd be interested to know what you think, but I think slightly steps over the mark. I think in some of the way he talks to the president, and this is a young man who should really know his place, but he's scared and he's afraid about what might happen. So I think that's what's clever about the film, is that firstly, there's not really enough time to delve into each and every one of their lives, but it gives us a snapshot, and you see the humanity in each of the people, and it's a very dexterous thing to do that in a way that doesn't feel sentimental, but just gives a kind of, I kind of know a little bit who that person is, or I see a little bit of myself in that person, or would react in the same way as that person. And the no one does that better than the president in the film, and it's a really smart thing, because aside from the fact that I think Idris would be a fantastic president, and I would follow him into, he was the most presidential person I've ever seen when he walked onto set. But he is someone that is, he's very vulnerable in the moment, and he is the person that has the keys and is struggling.
What I loved about that, though, is that we always see that shot of the president walking out of the south lawn of the White House, about to board Marine 2, and we always see that guy with the football, right, with the briefcase, with the nuclear codes in it, but we never know what that person sounds like, what they're thinking, and what they're looking like.
No, we do.
And what you brought to that character, I would have never imagined that was that person. So unfortunately, because we never heard these people talk, that is now my version. I see these kids, and they're into fall fashion, which I'm shocked by.
It's great though. That is the power of good cinema.
It is.
That you're not, it's not thrown down your throat. It's like they're all real people.
They are.
Dealing with,
Even where you go on the are real people, there's a question to you where you were asked, she doesn't deserve to die. Talk to me about, I'm sorry, she doesn't deserve to be saved. I thought that was a powerful line. Talk to me about that. And I want to come to you, Noah, with the follow-up with that, what you wrote with that one.
Yeah. I think it's really complex what you wrote. Because sitting right here, it's, I can't cuss, can I? Sorry.
You can.
It's fucking me up. Really sitting here thinking about it, because it's well, yeah, who am I to be saved and not you or you or you or you, any of us? You know what I mean? It's I don't know. You did something. You did something.
You did.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where I want to land this plane because our time is limited. But I think I want to surmise and then land the plane with you. What I loved about what you guys did and what this film does is how it brought something really interesting, and I think it was really with the Indo-Pacific Command. It's rare that we get a chance to talk about the Indo-Pacific Command, like on
Certainly
film and in television, and from a very cinematic, to steal your words, perspective. But all of right now, North Korea is all the conversation. China is all the conversation. Do not respond. It's all the conversation in the backdrop for us to be able to look at the Indo-Pacific Command and what they're there for, and the way that you guys highlighted the consequences of when you launch things by land, by air, and by sea. There is a number to be associated. There is a 10 million number, even more. And do you sacrifice the 10 mil in order to save the rest, or do you destroy it? Which then leads me to land the plane on the Battle of Gettysburg. I have a reason why I think you used it, but I want to hear from you as we close out why it was important that the Battle of Gettysburg was placed into this film.
Sure. So I'm going to give you one very pedestrian reason, and then the second reason, which may be what you're thinking of. The pedestrian reason is it was important to the story to reflect the fact that if something like this should ever happen, it is not as if all the necessary decision makers would be sitting at their desks at a computer, readily available with all the information they need. So we wanted to tell the story of a character who is on a trip with their kid on their day off. And we wanted to do it in a place in which that character could, in theory, after that call is made, be told, this is the moment where you need to get in a car and drive to the mountain cave fortress where maybe you and your kid are going to live out the rest of your days underground as the rest of the world blows up around you. And it turns out Gettysburg is driving distance from Raven Rock, which is one of our nuclear bunkers. The bigger, better, more important reason is I think it reflects the fact that in many ways humanity is, we're our own worst enemy. And we can either tear ourselves apart or we can band together and try to solve these extraordinarily complex problems that we face, whether it's the nuclear issue or climate change or anything else that we're confronting.
And also too, when you decide, when two parties decide to go on decisive offense, the outcome of that, somebody always comes up short, which is the point of nuclear nonproliferation, is to avoid that. What an amazing job you all did bringing such humanity into this consequential decision that may or may not be within grasp and within the realm of reason, which is why we as America exercise this 400 times. Thank you for the humanity that you brought to it. And thank you for the good conversation of being open and being vulnerable to this conversation that we've had today. I really do appreciate it. Audience, please make sure you go see the House of Dynamite. You would not be disappointed. This doesn't even scratch the surface of the underlying tension and questions that are being asked on morals and ethics and humanity. So it's been a pleasure walking this through with you. So until next time, folks, peace.